Well, it didn't get as cold as it said last night. It only got to about 38, 36, something like that. Believe it or not, it was still 46 in here, I think. Those lights up there, they don't like to come on if it's less than 50. And I only had one light that didn't want to come on, and yeah, it's still a little questionable, and it's not one of those. It's one that usually doesn't have a problem, but I see a little darkness at the end, so. Anyway, this thing's been on for an hour, cycled a few times. As of yet, I don't smell anything. All I smell is just the fact that we cleaned stuff up and there's a little dust here and there that wasn't. And there's nice heat coming out of it, so. And our weekend that was supposed to be a nice weekend, and number one and Steve, we're going to try to get some fence posts in out there where they took that fence out. Well, they got, oh, yeah, it doesn't look like it's still sprinkling at the moment. That's what we woke up to this morning. Everything's wet, and that puddle was gone, and that was a dry spot yesterday. So, yep, one of those days. Yeah, planned on finishing straightening the tongue on that trailer yesterday and didn't get to it, so I figured I'd do it today, and now it's wet out. Ain't the first time. Done a lot of work in the rain. Sometimes it's worth wearing a raincoat, sometimes it's not. So. But I gotta dig through my metal over there against the wall underneath the hose reels is a little bit of everything. Diamond plate, flat plate. See if there's something there thick enough to do what I want to do and big enough. Make a centerpiece to get that in the shaft put together. And then see if I can get that together. Then see if I can con Ben into coming back out and putting that tire back on. I'm sure I can. It's just a matter of when. He's got to have time. Being the big log truck driver back to doing that again instead of hauling rock or whatever. He's long days. It's not like he lives close. I mean, he's not that far away, but he's not that close. Not quite close enough to run out for a few minutes. So anyway, that's enough rambling for now. Well, I was thinking by now I would show you a shaft with no bearings on it. Because the more I think about it, I don't want to have to make a split piece to go on that shaft. It's a lot of extra work and a little harder to make it true. But that's what's going to happen because at $400 a piece for those bearings, I am not cutting them off. Unless one of them goes tits up and both of them are okay. So that's where they stay. The Posi lock puller, it locked on there nicely, and 3-foot freaking bar on it and beating on the end of it, and we never budged them at all. So when the time comes, we pony up for some money. I mean, luckily where Tom works, they have a less expensive line of bearings, but that mount and the bearing inside it are $395 a piece, pretty much all day long at the major bearing suppliers. And hey, if that was a 4-bolt flange, which would mount like those bearings do, that's $680 with the same bearing inside it, just a different flange on the outside. So yeah, that answers how that's going to happen. Makes me happy, not. I kind of figured it wasn't going to hurt to get it off, clean the shaft up, even if we put these same bearings back on. Yeah. Oh, and another plus, so far I don't smell any wood smoke in here today. Furnace has been running all day. It's just about noon now, so I should have got you some video of me and number one and Steve working that puller and getting absolutely nowhere. And I ground the end of this. This end had a crooked cut, so I ground it so we had a flat surface to work on. And the dimple in the middle of that was already, oh, wait a minute. Nope, we put this one in. That one was already there. So maybe somebody else tried once. And that other bearing is the one that had the seal half out of it. Got to look, and it's like, hey, it should be able to go back in. So number one got it put back in. Took her 3 tries. She moved it a little bit and it popped back out. So we're going to let it sit there and hopefully it stays in. I mean, if not, with the narrow tires, generally we're not in a lot of dust. If we're doing pre-merge stuff or even early post-emerge or, even stuff in the spring when there is some growth, we'll have the wide tires on anyway. The narrows will just be when it's actually up taller and drier and a lot less dust to contend with. So, and worst come to worst, I can probably figure out how to wedge a felt seal in there and do something to hold it in to keep the dirt out. And speaking of felt sealed bearings, the ones we actually have on the Cultipacker are a rubber seal and felt seal, and they actually hold up. You get the OEMs that are just a freaking rubber seal, and yeah, you change bearings every couple years, but knock on wood, what we have in there, once again, came from Tom, the supplier they get them out of, and they make it well over 5 years. So I don't complain about that. Keep them greased and keep going. So anyway, I got to figure out how I'm going to make it work. For a helper.
Oh God, let's not.
I got number 2.
Hi.
That plate in her hand is the mounting plate for the jack on that little trailer.
It's a gorgeous plate. It's like a dinner plate.
It's in pretty good shape now. We started in the vise, and I said, no, let's go use the press. So, yeah, it's as close as we're going to get it. If I had a bunch of fancy clamps and a table on there to clamp a couple spots down, we could get it better, but it's way straighter than it was. Oh, yeah, here, by the way, I'll show this too. Maybe should have used Porta Power instead of the Handyman, but that one's about as straight as it's going to get. If anything, we tweaked her a little too far that way, but, and that one, pretty much same story. So, got that back on there for him. Now we'll get the jack on for him, and it'll be done.